Good evening. My name is Amel Rogers, and I'm here because in both my life as a researcher and a graduate student, I've always been a fan of the art of presentation software. For over 5 years now, I've worked for the USC Annenberg Norman Lear Center, which studies and shapes how entertainment and media impact society. At the Lear Center, I have the privilege of working on a team of talented individuals who, among many other responsibilities, help research, design, and create the Lear Center presentations, which are primarily given by our director, Marty Kaplan, and our managing director and director of research, Johanna Blakely, who's getting ready to give her 4th TED Talk right now. In many workplaces, the visual presentation is an afterthought, but at the Lear Center, it's the star. Significant time and energy is put into figuring out the best way of capturing an audience's attention. Now, there are many schools of thought about what makes a good presentation, but tonight I will be sharing with you the presentation creation process that I go through both in my personal life as well as some of the things that we do at the Lear Center. Now, the first thing that you want to do in crafting a presentation is to figure out what story you want to tell. Chris Anderson from TED points out that humans are wired to listen to stories, so you should think about what kind of journey you want to take the audience on. From a technical perspective, you need to find out everything you can about the venue and tech specifications for your presentation. Can you connect your computer? Does the computer have the fonts you want to use? Does the room have audio? What background would work well with the room lighting? You need to accommodate for all of these things early. Now, for most people, it's important to write a script or at least a very detailed outline. For most of us, this leads to what Chris Anderson calls the valley of awkwardness, where you lose your place, you are plagued by vocal pauses, or you are ranting and getting off of track. Writing a script allows you to rehearse the same way each time and create a natural flow of language. As you script your presentation, you should be thinking about the visual story that you want to convey, and you should include it in your script. Here's how I go about it. This is a part of the script for a presentation I gave for a class last year. You can see that I will write out exactly what I want to say and include clicks so I know when to click and what image will be on the screen at the time. Now, when the script is final, I dropped the script into my presentation notes screen in Keynote. This essentially acts as a teleprompter. This is what I'm looking at on my computer right now. You can customize the screen however you want, but mine shows me the current slide, next slide, my script, current time, and elapsed time. Now, speaking of elapsed time, writing a script also allows you to make sure that you're adhering to time restrictions. As you practice, you can set checkpoints so you know where you're supposed to be in the presentation, and then you can adjust. Now for actually creating the presentation. The point of using presentation software is to help expand upon and illustrate your points. So if you can do that without presentation software, like some people can, then definitely go for it. But if you feel like having a visual presentation will help tell your story, the most important thing to remember is that it's not 1999, and slides like this are not acceptable. Your goal should be that whatever is on the screen is immediately identifiable by the audience. This means very few words, readable fonts, and big images. You are not reading from the slide, and in my favorite presentations, you aren't even acknowledging that the slide is there. Lawrence Lessig does this really well. He uses a slides as chorus philosophy where he will have one word or one image up on the screen that helps illustrate his point, but he will never acknowledge its presence. If you are a fancy designer, make all of your slides in Flash and InDesign and knock everybody's socks off, like my colleague Veronica Howdicke does with our Lear Center presentations. But if you don't have those skills, then do what I do and just do your best to have a consistent look and feel throughout. This means the same fonts, same background, and recurring themes. I don't want you to be so attached to this consistency that it hurts your presentation. If it's imperative to show an image that you can't see on your theme background, break the consistent look and show the image for a moment. The audience probably won't be offended. But if I'm in the audience, there are a few things that will offend me. There is no excuse for pixelation. If you are looking for a picture of someone to put in a presentation and you put it at the size you want and it looks pixelated on the screen, it isn't magically going to look good on the big screen. The easiest way to avoid this is to Google image what you're looking for and then go to search tools and then change the size to large and pick one that won't distract the audience with its pixelation. The result is a better non-pixelated image. Another pet peeve of mine is image transparency. It's so frustrating to see an extraneous solid background on an image because it's now so easy to remove it. You don't need Photoshop, and if you're in PowerPoint, all you do is select the image, click Format Picture, and remove the background. If you're in Keynote, you select the image, click Alpha, and click and drag until you've encompassed all of the background areas, and then just let go. Then you have this. Data. If you're going to be showing data, you still need to make sure it's immediately recognizable. How many times have you seen a slide that looks something like this? Try to figure out what's going on there. Instead, you need to figure out what the main point of your data is that you want to focus on and make it the first thing that people see. You do this by showing egregious trend lines, pie charts that pop and actually show the point of what you're trying to say immediately. Get creative and make people retain the point. I did a research project on Lady Gaga with a colleague from Barcelona. And when we needed to show who the most influential celebrities on Twitter were, instead of a boring bar chart, we did this to show who had the most followers, and this to show who had the most tweets. Now for videos. Videos should be short. How short? Extremely short. Think about your own viewing behaviors. Do you like watching long, drawn-out videos? Probably not. So find the points that you want the video to make and show that part only. There's a reason why Vine and Instagram video are so popular. We as a culture enjoy pith. The longer your video is, the less likely it is to maintain the attention of the audience. The most important takeaway I have on videos, though, is to try with all of your might to not leave your presentation software. Your presentation should be seamless, and when you go to the trouble of clicking exit on your presentation, searching for an internet tab to show a website or a video, and then having to wait for the video to buffer, you've already lost the entire audience. So how do we go about avoiding leaving the presentation? Well, if your goal is to show a website, the answer is simple. You just take a screen grab of the site and drop it into the presentation as an image. If you want to show a YouTube video, it gets a little bit more complicated. The most important thing is that you understand the technological limitations of the presentation software you're using. For example, in Prezi, you can link to a YouTube clip with no problem. In PowerPoint, there are some versions that allow you to link in a YouTube clip without leaving, but you may not be able to queue it up to the right spot. And in Keynote, you can't do it at all. You can't link to any YouTube clips. So in some versions of PowerPoint and in all of Keynote, you need to rip the video from YouTube, download it to your computer, and then upload it into the presentation. Now, there are a lot of idiosyncrasies in different software that could cause your videos not to play for a variety of reasons. This is why I urge you to try and show your presentation from the computer you practiced on, so you can avoid having to say something to the effect of, well, I don't know what happened. It worked on my computer. So here's my video process that I go through. I use Keynote exclusively. I think it's substantially better than PowerPoint. Unless we're creating a presentation for entities that force you to do it in PowerPoint, I always choose Keynote. For ripping, I use a $29 piece of software called iSkySoft iTube Studio. If you're going to be ripping a lot, I highly recommend it. But if you're just ripping 1 to 2 videos, there are free sites like keepvid.com that may do the trick for you. Now, on the day of the presentation, before you leave for the presentation venue, think about all of the things that can go wrong and walk through how you would fix them if they happened. One of the main contingencies you need to have is putting your presentation on your computer, in the cloud, and on a flash drive, just in case something happens standing alone. If you're using a Mac, know where your dongles are. If the room doesn't have a dongle, bring your own. I carry a VGA, DVI, and HDMI dongle on my person at all times. It's important to arrive early to get acquainted with the tech setup and the room environment. And it's important to connect your computer and test it out in slideshow mode before anything starts, just to make sure that your presentation notes are showing up correctly. If they aren't, then you go to System Preferences, Display, Arrangement, and uncheck Mirror Screens. You also need to check the audio levels. I usually put a video like this as my first slide just to test the audio before the presentation begins. Testing audio. testing video, testing audio. Then run through the presentation, make sure your fonts are there, that everything looks right, and then do anything you need to do to feel more comfortable with the presentation technology and have fun. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.